I was tightening the valve behind her house soaked in mud when she finally opened the back door. "What do you think you're doing?" she screeched barefoot, holding a dripping glass of wine. I didn't say a word, just turned the wrench one last time, click, and walked off without a glance. That's when the silence began. And trust me, silence was the loudest thing she ever heard. If you've ever dealt with a Karen, and I mean the real kind, the kind that breathes drama and drinks control like oxygen, then stick around. Because this one is for every quiet person who finally had enough. And hey, if you've ever fantasized about a Karen finally getting what she deserves, you're in for a treat. Like, subscribe. Let's dive in. I moved into the cabin to escape people like her. I wasn't looking for a community, or block parties, or neighborhood newsletters. I was looking for peace. Just me, the trees, a couple of solar panels, and the kind of silence that lets you hear your own thoughts for the first time in years. The place was old, sure, a bit crooked in the foundation, some rot in the corners, but it was mine. I bought it from an old couple who hadn't lived there in over a decade. The well worked fine, the stove heated up eventually, and the birds were louder than any highway. Paradise. Then came the knock. I'd been living there maybe 2 weeks, still hadn't unpacked all my boxes, was drinking cold coffee on the porch, watching a squirrel try to climb a frozen bird feeder. When I heard it, 3 sharp knocks. I figured it was a delivery gone wrong or some lost hiker. She stood there in a pastel tracksuit, white shoes too clean for this much gravel, and a clipboard. Not a hi there clipboard, a serious, laminated one. "You're new," she said. "Not a question." "I am. I'm Janet. I live up the hill." She gestured vaguely toward the ridge. "Just came by to drop off the HOA guidelines." I blinked. "There's no HOA here." Her smile was tight. "We're informal but active. I run point on most things. We just like to keep things tidy for property value." I looked down at my boots. "Right." She held out the clipboard like it was a subpoena. "Trash days are Tuesdays. No exterior lights past 10 p.m. And we don't do visible laundry lines. It looks poor." I didn't take the clipboard. "Thanks, but I'm good." That was the first moment I saw the flicker, the twitch in her eye, like a button had been pushed and her whole operating system glitched for a second. "Well," she said after a beat, "we like to keep everyone on the same page. Oh, and we usually do a welcome brunch for new residents. This Sunday." "Yeah, I don't." "It's already planned. Just bring a side." She left before I could say another word. I didn't go to the brunch. I went fishing instead. The next morning there was a paper nailed, literally nailed, to my front door. "Absence noted. Community cohesion is everyone's responsibility. Consider this a warning." A warning, I laughed. Honestly, I thought it was funny. A delusional woman trying to play sheriff in a place that didn't even have sidewalks, but it didn't stop there. A few days later, I came home to find my trash cans dragged down the hill, 200 yards away. A bright orange sticker slapped across the lid. "Not in accordance." The week after that, she filed a noise complaint to the county about illegal music gatherings. I don't even own speakers. Then came the photos. Printed black and white shots taped to my mailbox. Me in my garden. Me splitting wood. Me sitting shirtless on the porch drinking beer. "No shirt. Nahasher's indecent exposure," one read. Another, "Weed growth exceeds 6 inches. This is not Appalachia." That's when I started locking the gate, but she found other ways. One morning I opened the front door and nearly tripped over a giant ceramic gnome. A note tied around its neck read, "Let's keep it whimsical, not wild." It was like psychological warfare, suburban edition. But I didn't react, not once, because I'd learned the golden rule: never feed a Karen. Attention is her fuel. Without it, she runs dry. So I smiled when I saw her, waved, went about my business, until I came home one night and saw footprints on my porch. Muddy, heel heavy, a smear of lipstick on my coffee mug, and inside, just near the windowsill, a single half-smoked cigarette. I don't smoke. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the door with a baseball bat across my knees, every light off, just listening. No raccoons, no wind, just my own breath and the occasional crack of a log shifting in the wood stove. That cigarette wasn't mine. That mug wasn't outside when I left. Someone had been here, inside. By morning, my hands were still trembling, but my decision was clear. Cameras. I installed two that very day, one pointing at the driveway, one at the porch, and just in case, I put a motion sensor by the back door. This wasn't just petty anymore. Then I got the flyer. Community meeting, urgent. Taped again to my door, in Comic Sans, discussing recent rise in suspicious behavior. Residents urged to attend. Mandatory for all property owners. Signed, Neighborhood Oversight Council. Chairwoman Janet Caldwell. I didn't go. Instead, I spent that night watching the feed. At 10:43 p.m., motion alert. There she was, in a pink robe, walking along my driveway. Holding something. A flashlight, a paper. She approached my porch, looked around, then walked up and paused. Just stood there for a while. Then she bent down and placed something at my door. Walked back without hurry, like she owned the place. The next morning, I opened the door. It was a zucchini, just one big, overgrown zucchini, wrapped in cellophane, with a sticky note, grow your own or accept neighborly kindness. There are standards here. What the hell did that even mean? I started asking around. My nearest neighbors, the Schroeders, lived a quarter-mile away. Older couple. Chickens. Truck with a canoe strapped on top year-round. Over iced tea on their porch, I asked what the deal was with Janet. They looked at each other. Then Mr. Schrader chuckled dryly. She thinks she runs this place, he said. Does she? No, but nobody wants the noise. Mrs. Schrader leaned in. She tried to tell us our garden flags violated aesthetic code. We told her to eat rocks. Apparently, she'd been making up rules for years. Most folks just ignored her. But I was new. A blank canvas, a challenge. She's all bark, Mr. Schrader said, but she's persistent. Don't let her in. I wish I'd taken that literally. 3 nights later, I got home late, groceries in hand, dead phone. As I reached the porch, something was off. The front door was unlocked. I always locked it. Always. My breath caught. I nudged it open with my foot, groceries creaking in plastic bags. Nothing looked stolen, but the air smelled different, like perfume, like cheap vanilla and old wine. I checked every room. No one there. But in the living room, my couch pillows were rearranged. On the armrest, a single bobby pin. I called the sheriff. Small-town deputy came by, took a statement, nodded solemnly, and left with a shrug. No sign of forced entry. Could have left it open, sir, but we'll keep an eye out. They weren't going to do anything. I knew it. And now she knew too. A week passed. No incidents, no flyers, no zucchinis, just silence. Too much silence. Then one evening, I got a text from a friend in town. Dude, is this your cabin? Attached was a video, music loud, echoing through the trees, flashing lights in the window. People? A dozen maybe. Laughing, dancing, some in swimsuits, others in boots, someone doing karaoke on the porch. My porch. I stared, dumbfounded. The video panned inside. My couch, my table, my guitar. Someone was strumming it like a drunk toddler. Then I saw her, front and center, holding a wine bottle like a microphone. Welcome to the cabin, baby. Why, Janet? Wearing my flannel. I broke every speed limit getting home. By the time I arrived, it was over. The lights were off, the music gone, a few beer cans still rolled on the porch. Inside, chaos, pillows on the floor, a broken lamp, my guitar snapped at the neck, muddy footprints across the rug. In the kitchen sink, red plastic cups and a half-eaten cake, a paper plate that said, Karen's Cabin Bash. I sat down, right there in the mess, just sat and stared. I could have screamed, could have called the cops. But what would they do? No forced entry, no witnesses, just a neighbor misunderstanding. She thought she won. But I had other ideas. I cleaned up, documented everything, quietly. Then I went out back, to the well house. See, most of us in the area don't use city utilities. We're off-grid. Wells, septic tanks, the works. When I bought the place, the inspector showed me the system. Yours is deep, he said. Clean, gravity-fed, but be careful. A few properties pull from the same aquifer. I didn't think much of it then, but last week I noticed something strange. A new pipe, running behind her property, toward the ridge, toward my pump. It wasn't just a party she stole. She was stealing my water. I followed that pipe like a hunter tracks a wounded deer. It ran under the fence behind a stretch of pine trees and up toward her house in a shallow trench. Sloppy work. Bits of insulation still stuck to the PVC. A few joints duct-taped like it was some fourth-grade science project. And right before it curved toward her crawl space, it passed through a black, rusted valve. The kind you'd use for emergency shutoff. I laughed out loud. Couldn't help it. She hadn't just tapped into my line. She'd installed a way to control the flow, like it was hers to manage. I took photos, video, sent a copy to my cloud, dated, time-stamped. Then I walked back to my cabin, made a sandwich, and waited. Not for her, for the right moment. It came the next morning. I woke to the sound of shouting, not just her usual property rights rant echoing across the treetops. No, this was different. More panicked. Wet. I grabbed my coffee, stepped outside, and there she was, standing ankle-deep in a puddle near her garage, hose dangling uselessly from her hand. "No pressure," she yelled at no one. "No damn water." She looked up and saw me. Her face shifted, quick as a snake, the fake concern mask sliding into place. "Morning," she said, walking down the slope toward my fence. "Hey, you having issues with the water?" I sipped my coffee. "Nope." "Oh," she hesitated. "Strange. I'm completely dry. Wonder if the system's down?" I didn't answer, just leaned on the rail and looked at her. Quiet. She shifted. "I mean, I guess I'll call someone. I do think we're connected." "No," I said calmly, "we're not." She froze. "What?" "We're not connected. This is my private well. You're not on it." A beat. Then her eyes narrowed. "Well then, someone illegally connected me. I had no idea. That's shocking." I raised an eyebrow. "You installed a valve." She blinked. That's slander. I have footage." She opened her mouth, closed it, turned on her heel and marched uphill. The next few hours were glorious. I worked in my garden, trimmed the trees, even played some music on a Bluetooth speaker. Loud, just enough for her to hear. Meanwhile, I watched her in the distance pacing her porch, phone glued to her ear, gesturing wildly. I imagined the conversation. "Ma'am, if the well isn't on your property, it's not your well. No, there is no HOA jurisdiction over utility redistribution. Yes, we can recommend drilling your own, starting at 12 grand. By sunset, she was outside with buckets, trying to scoop water from a kiddie pool. I swear I saw her fill a coffee maker with bottled Dasani. She went silent for 2 whole days. No flyers, no zucchini, no midnight strolls. I started to think maybe it was over. Maybe she'd learned. Maybe I'd won. But of course, that's not how Karens work. On the 3rd morning, I came outside and found a note pinned to my woodpile, scrawled in red ink. "This is harassment. I will be contacting the sheriff and the county. You've illegally tampered with shared resources. Prepare for consequences." It was barely legible, written like a courtroom drama meltdown, so I called first. "Deputy Mathers," said the voice on the line. "Hey, it's the guy with the cabin on Cedar Hill. I think my neighbor's about to make a false police report." He chuckled. "Janet?" "Yup. Already did." I sighed. "You guys coming out?" "Already did." That caught me off guard. "Wait, what?" "Yeah, we were up there this morning. She showed us her fancy plumbing job, claimed it's all legal. We asked for permits. There aren't any. And? Well, she screamed for about 10 minutes, accused us of being part of your cult or militia or something." I had to laugh. She threatened to call the governor. Then she stormed inside and slammed the door. We left. "Anything I need to do?" "Document everything, which, knowing you, you already did." "I did." "Then sit tight." The next 48 hours were like living next to a volcano that was trying to stay dormant. She didn't make a sound. No visits, no notes, just silence. But then the trucks came. Two giant moving trucks pulled up her driveway one morning around 9 a.m. I watched from my porch, bewildered. At first I thought maybe she was finally drilling her own well. But then I saw the furniture: boxes, lamps, a bicycle, an absurd number of decorative wreaths. She was packing. At noon I saw her standing on her lawn, phone in hand, filming a selfie video with tears in her eyes. Something about harassment, property theft, civil liberty, HOA abuse. Nobody responded. At 3 p.m., one of the movers rolled an enormous canvas down the hill. It got stuck on a rock. It was a painting of her, wearing pearls, posing beside a golden retriever that I never saw on her property. At 6 p.m., she was gone, just like that. That night, I walked the perimeter. No trash, no music, no gnomes. The stars above the treetops looked brighter than ever. I sat on the porch with a beer and whispered to myself, "We're okay. We're still okay." And for the first time since moving here, I believed it. You'd think that was the end. I did too. But like a stain that won't wash out, Janet had one last mark to leave. It started with a letter. I found it 2 days after she left, stuffed into my mailbox with no postage. Legal looking, printed on thick paper, like the kind lawyers use when they want you to feel small before you even read the words. "Dear resident," it began. Not me, not by name, just resident. "You are hereby notified of pending review regarding violations of Neighborhood Ordinance 14B pertaining to hostile acts against community cohesion and resource sabotage." It went on for 4 pages. 4 dense, rambling pages filled with citations to made-up ordinances, allegations of well dominance, accusations of non-participation in community values, and, my favorite line, a demand that I submit a written apology to the Neighborhood Oversight Committee, which of course no longer existed because she was gone. I stood there laughing under the early sun, letter in one hand, coffee in the other, and said out loud, "She wrote HOA fanfiction." The letter didn't scare me, but it made me wonder, did she really leave, or was this just the retreat before the siege? I needed to know, so I asked around. Turns out she had a sister, lives 2 towns over. Word is Janet was taking time off to recover. Her house, the command center, as some neighbors mockingly called it, was listed for rent, short-term only. Vacation rental, marketed as a rustic escape in a quiet, tight-knit community. The description made me gag. For about a month things were good, better than good. The neighbors thawed. Mr. Schrader helped me repair the broken porch rail. A young couple from down the hill brought me cookies for surviving Janet. Someone even invited me to a bonfire, my first real social thing since moving here. We shared stories. Most of them were about her. She once accused my kid of witchcraft because of a Halloween decoration, one woman said. She reported my dog for smiling aggressively. A man laughed. The legend of Janet Caldwell lived on, but she was gone until she wasn't. It was subtle at first. A lawn gnome appeared on my porch. Not the same one. This one was bigger, with sunglasses, and a tiny sign that said, "I'm watching." Then a fake notice of violation was taped to the community bulletin board, handwritten in all caps. Same red ink. Someone started leaving zucchini again. And then, I swear to God, I got an email. Subject: reconciliation is possible. Body: I forgive you. We can rebuild this community. I'm willing to return if terms are met. Attached: a blurry photo of her smiling with a puppy. I blocked the email, threw out the gnome, ate the zucchini, but the message was clear. She wasn't done, so I decided to finish it. Remember the plumbing? I still had the footage, the evidence, photos, videos, the invoice from the guy I hired to remove her line, legally and professionally, so I sent it, not to her, to the county, specifically to the zoning board, with a cover letter outlining the unauthorized utility tapping, false claims of HOA authority, and harassment of multiple residents. I didn't hear anything for a week. Then one crisp Thursday morning, a white car with a county seal pulled up her old driveway. 2 men in hard hats walked the property, took notes, took photos. One of them knocked on my door and asked a few questions. I gave him the USB stick. Looks like she tampered with the water main too, one of them said. Illegally rerouted a pressure valve. I shrugged. Sounds like her. A few weeks later, a giant red sign appeared on her door. Notice of violation. Unauthorized modifications. Property subject to inspection. Fines pending. It was beautiful, like a Christmas card for people who love consequences. And then, silence again. The real kind. No zucchini, no notes, no emails, no gnomes. Just peace. Until one final envelope came. This time from a lawyer. Real letterhead. Real signature. In it, a statement confirming that Janet Caldwell, formerly of Cedar Hill, would not return to the property and had formally relinquished all community oversight initiatives. The house was to be sold. At the bottom, a note in pen, handwritten, Mr. My last name, please consider this matter resolved. B. Lawson, S.K. I folded the letter, slipped it into the fire, and watched it turn to ash. The sun was going down, casting golden light through the trees. I sat on the porch, dog asleep at my feet, beer in hand, and thought, that's how you deal with a Karen. You don't scream. You don't match her energy. You outlast her with silence and pressure and patience. And when the water stops flowing, when the consequences finally catch up, you just listen and smile. There's a strange thing that happens after someone like her disappears. You start hearing the woods again, not just birds and wind and the occasional squirrel performing Cirque du Soleil in the treetops. I mean the real woods, the deep rustle of pines swaying together, the dull hum of insects in the moss, the kind of sounds that never speak over people, only in their absence. That's when I knew it was really over. And then, one Saturday morning, it became official. A truck pulled up, not the moving kind, the painting kind. Two guys hopped out, unrolled a plastic tarp, and got to work sanding and repainting Janet's old porch. A day later, another truck came, landscaping crew. They ripped out the dead gardenias, removed the ridiculous solar fountain shaped like a cherub peeing into a bucket, and trimmed the hedges into actual shapes. By midweek, the rustic cabin was gone. In its place stood something new, a clean, simple mountain rental, staged with boring furniture and photos of people smiling at mugs of cocoa. It was a mausoleum, Janet's spirit scrubbed out of existence, but the town remembered. Her legend became local folklore, the tyrant of Cedar Hill. Queen HOA. At the general store, someone even made fridge magnets with her face cartoonishly distorted, yelling at a mailbox. People bought them, a kind of collective therapy. Meanwhile, I found peace, the real kind. No more surveillance, no more warnings, no more community cohesion memos shoved under my door at dawn. The new renters were quiet, respectful, and actually asked before hosting a barbecue. I joined a local hiking group, started brewing my own beer, even built a new fence, sturdier, taller, not because I needed to keep people out, but because it finally felt like my land again. The air felt different. Lighter. One afternoon, I was helping Mr. Schrader fix a busted chicken wire gate when he turned to me and said, "You ever think about running for council?" I blinked. "What council?" He grinned. "Exactly." We laughed, and that was it. No meetings, no votes, just a shared understanding. We'd all had enough of pretend power and unsolicited authority. This wasn't a neighborhood anymore. It was a community, because the difference is simple. One is built on rules, the other is built on trust. Months passed. Winter came. Snow dusted the pine trees. Chimneys puffed lazy smoke into the sky. And then, one day, I got a letter. No stamp, no return address, just my name, handwritten in shaky cursive, inside a single sheet of paper. "I'm not angry anymore," it read. "I hope you aren't either. I thought I was helping. I thought someone had to be in charge. I didn't know how to live quietly. But you showed me. Thank you." No name, no apology. But I knew who it was from. I burned that letter too, not out of spite, but because it didn't belong here anymore. Like her. I poured myself a drink, walked out to the porch, and watched the trees sway. And as the sun dropped behind the ridge, I thought of all the ways silence had won. Not by being passive, but by being louder than noise. By staying calm while someone else burned themselves out. By holding your ground without becoming the storm. And by knowing exactly when to turn the valve and walk away.